Between injuries and guys that look like busts, your fantasy team probably needs saved, and we're here to tell you how to save your fantasy football team. We're going to start with some player verdicts here. We're going to start with Zach Charbonnet. Obviously, the Seahawks, this is a team that wants to run the ball a lot. And Kenneth Walker, you drafted him in the 4th round, but what you weren't expecting from Kenneth Walker in week 1 was to be out-snapped by Zach Charbonnet. What you weren't expecting in week 1 was Zach Charbonnet to out-carry Kenneth Walker. And so when you're looking at, again, the snaps and the carries, you pretty much assume that Zach Charbonnet is the number 1 back there. It's worth noting that Kenneth Walker has had a foot injury that has nagged on really since like the offseason. He's had it throughout all of training camp. And while he did play, again, about 40% of the snaps, it does look like Zach Charbonnet is the goal line back. And, we could make the argument, Zach Charbonnet was in on the goal line because it was his drive. We could make the argument, hey, well, Zach Charbonnet was in on 3rd down. It was his drive, 2-minute drill. But at the end of the day, even if that is the case, as a Kenneth Walker owner, you're really not looking at that and very encouraged. But as a Zach Charbonnet owner, are you buying this? Are you actually taking Zach Charbonnet and saying, I want to hold him on my fantasy football team? Or are you selling him high and thinking that this is a fluke and that Kenneth Walker is going to get more work? What do we do with Kenneth Walker? We both have different verdicts for this guy, but my verdict is going to be hold. Zach Charbonnet, in my opinion, is a hold. My reasoning is this. If Zach Charbonnet is going to be the lead back in Seattle, if he ends up getting this kind of work on a consistent basis, the price you got him at makes him an absolute league winner. And so you don't want to give away somebody who could end up winning you a league because they got more work. I mean, I don't understand what the sell high method. I don't understand why we would sell high here. I mean, we said in the offseason we thought Zach Charbonnet was going to get this kind of work in this offense. Not to mention, if Kenneth Walker were to go down, which is something that has not been out of the realm of possibilities by any means in the last couple of years, Zach Charbonnet has this backfield all to himself. Zach Charbonnet proved that at least when they're splitting 60-40, where Zach Charbonnet is getting the most carries there, he can be productive still. So what's his floor? I mean, we saw him score 10 points on 58% snap share. He had 12 attempts for 47 yards and a touchdown. I'd say his floor is a little bit lower than that. I would say his floor is probably what Kenneth Walker's floor is, in the sense that Kenneth Walker scored 5.5 points on 40% snap share, and there might be weeks where that's Zach Charbonnet and not Kenneth Walker. However, when I'm looking at the overall usage in week 1, again, there is nothing that suggests that Kenneth Walker is the lead back there. In fact, at very best, you could make the case that it's a 50-50 split. I think it's very clear based on the running back usage charts that I'm showing you on the screen that Zach Charbonnet looks like the number 1 back there. And so because of that, I think he's a hold. I'm not giving away somebody you drafted at this price just because he could potentially not be getting this type of volume year after year. It's a good offense, an offense that wants to run the ball, and he looks like the running back 1 there.
Yeah, but I think we're both being realistic about what his outlook really could be. I think we're kind of betting on what his floor might be in this situation, because you're right. I don't think anything's suggesting that Kenneth Walker's running back 1 here, but I don't think there's anything suggesting that Zach Charbonnet is a bell cow in this room either right now. So while Kenneth Walker is still getting opportunities in this offense, that does limit the ceiling of both Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, which is why we're not going to go out of our way and say, oh, buy, when Charbonnet got more opportunity than anyone expected. Week 1, go, pay a premium for him at the moment. Again, it is going to depend on the circumstance of your league. Does your league try to offload Zach Charbonnet, try to buy low on Kenneth Walker and go move off Charbonnet for, a reasonable price? Like every different league is different, right? So make sure that you have a good pulse on what the owners of Charbonnet and Walker are doing in your league. But same thing I think applies to Jacory Krosky-Merritt, but I will say with Krosky-Merritt, I'm a little more confident that he's going to ultimately take over this backfield as the true, down in and down out back when it comes to the consistent carries that he's getting in this offense. I don't think you're going to see a Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet split. What you are going to see is Austin Eckler being in on the downs where he gets receiving opportunity, and Krosky-Merritt is really going to be like your Najee Harris to as Austin Eckler's Jaylen Warren. And when you looked at the usage in week 1, Krosky-Merritt came right out and had 21 of the early down opportunities, which was more than any other running back in the offense. And when you're looking at total plays, Eckler was at 31, Krosky-Merritt was at 23. Short yardage, they split 3 for Eckler, 2 for Krosky-Merritt. And then interestingly enough, 3rd downs and 2-minute drills were allocated to Eckler, and then Jeremy McNichols got a couple of those. Krosky-Merritt was not involved in those scenarios. Now, you don't want to take you want to take everything with a grain of salt in week 1. Not just because it's week 1, but also because for this specific matchup, Washington was playing the Giants, and it was really never a competition. So you're going to see like their game plan change, and when are they going to want to utilize Krosky Merritt versus when are they going to want to utilize Austin Eckler if they're down or if they're in a shootout. Eckler is probably going to be on the field more often than Krosky Merritt will be. So I am going to say I'm going to be conservative with Krosky Merritt as well, because he is also shooting up boards at the moment, as he should be. But I will say hold if you got Krosky Merritt for essentially free before his stock went up like crazy a couple weeks before the season started. Then you're going to want to hold on to him for sure. I would not be selling Krosky Merritt as an owner of him right now because he's looking to be a potential flex option. People are selling flex option level prices for Krosky Merritt at the moment, which is why I don't think I would go out of my way to go buy him right now.
Yeah, I think he's probably a hold for me as well. Yeah. Let's talk about the star of, in my opinion, the star of Sunday Night Football outside of Josh Allen was Keon Coleman. And honestly, I don't know as a Coleman owner what else you would want to see here.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at the utilization for Coleman on Sunday night, 75 snaps, Khalil Shakir had 60. Obviously, slot guy Josh Palmer had 53. He led everybody in snaps. He had 25 fantasy points in this game because he had 11 targets, had 8 receptions, had 112 receiving yards, and caught a touchdown in there. I mean, Keon Coleman looked legit for a couple of reasons, but here's the main reason. I mean, 11 targets is obviously very encouraging. But when you watch Keon Coleman, his ability in this game to kind of sell the deep route and then break back towards the ball or towards the middle and get targets at a high clip. Josh Allen was consistently targeting Keon Coleman in this game at the sticks, which isn't something you saw last year in terms of his utilization. Yep. And so, again, and Khalil Shakir is still getting healthy. He's missed some practice, but Khalil Shakir got his own. He had 12 points and had 8 targets. And so it shows that both of these guys can produce in this offense. Now, it's worth noting the Bills aren't going to score 40 points every game. We understand that. But at the same time with Keon Coleman, again, I'm watching Josh Allen in a 2-minute drill throw it to Keon Coleman on an out route at the sticks. That's just not something I saw coming. And the fact that I'm watching that, I'm not going to lie to you, Keon Coleman is a buy for me. I am all freaking in on Keon Coleman with what I saw last night. I think the Bills have been waiting for this type of receiver. In fact, I don't know if I've seen them use a receiver like this since Stephon Diggs, because they didn't really use Shakir the way that they use Keon Coleman last night. I mean, yeah, they used Shakir a lot in the middle of the field, but again, it's the outbreaking routes that actually were working last night. It's the comeback routes that were working for Keon Coleman. That's super encouraging. And again, it translated to a super high target volume and also 25 fantasy points. In my opinion, Keon Coleman looked as good as I've ever seen him play. It looks like he's finally found his groove in that offense. It looks like the offense have found how they want to use him. For me, Keon Coleman is a buy. I'm curious what you think about that.
I'm between a hold and the buy. I get what you're saying, because number one, I mean, the number one thing that you were saying there is routes, specifically routes. And routes matter for a guy like Keon, who heading into the season was pretty inefficient as a route runner last season. He was always kind of touted as that high upside athlete, true athlete, as a prospect that was going to take a little bit of time to develop. And for whatever reason, people were pretty impatient with that and didn't really expect much from him heading into the season, even though we kind of expected him to have a shaky rookie outing, and he did. And now you're seeing this coming out party for him week 1, and he looks incredible. I will say, like, a good chunk of that production did come on literally the last 2 drives, one of which was a tip ball that he dove and got in the end zone, which was another like 10 points. And, again,
you're right.
Like,
I'm not looking at Keon Coleman.
That's why I'm like a hybrid hold buy with him right now. I understand why you would want to go and buy Keon Coleman. It is going to always be about the price for me. Because Keon Coleman, again, where you were drafting him, was he was a bench warmer guy that you would maybe have to plug into your flex during bye weeks. And now there's a potential that he's priced, again, in flex-worthy options, which I think he could settle into being a flex-worthy option for the rest of the season. Do I think he's going to consistently put up, 15-plus points per game? I'm not quite there. I did move him up my rankings. I think I moved him up my rankings at least a tier. I put him neck and neck with Khalil Shakir, because at this point, I think Shakir's outlook this season, Shakir's outlook is higher in terms of floor, but Keon Coleman objectively has the higher ceiling because of the type of wide receiver that he plays in that offense and the skill set that he has. So that's kind of my opinion on it. I'm a hybrid buy hold depending on circumstance. I'm a little on the fence right now. I want to see this for 1 or 2 more weeks before I really have like a big take on Coleman.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm more ranking him in the sense offense, I think you can get 11 points per game out of him. I don't really care about the touchdown. Like, he's not going to score 25 every game. Yeah. But just the fact that I think that 12 points per game for Keon Coleman in your flex spot is achievable at this point. I mean, I think that's a really big deal for where you drafted him, and so that's why I think he's a buy. Honestly, again, utilization makes me really encouraged. So,
all right, next guy we got here is one of Avery's guys in the Flock League, Devontae Smith, who had a really disappointing week 1 in a matchup that honestly should have been a good one for him when you're looking at the matchup and the defense overall for the Cowboys and their outlook this season. It's not positive with losing Micah Parsons. That just impacts literally everything there for Dallas. But you go into that matchup expecting Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown both to get a significant amount of work, and Dallas Goedert outscores both of them combined. And Saquon Barkley continues to look like Saquon Barkley of last season, and I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon. A couple of things to note here. Number one, the passing volume, at least for now, looks like it's going to be the exact same in terms of what they did last season. Jalen Hurts threw the ball 23 times. He was very, very, very efficient with that usage or with that opportunity. And I think that's something that you can count on. So while you have less volume in totality in the Philadelphia Eagles offense because they like to run the ball so much, you are probably going to see high efficiency level volume in terms of like, hey, Hurts went for 19 for 23. I think you're going to see kind of those 18 plus completion weeks pretty much every single week, which is really good for guys like A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, who are more often than not going to get a majority of the work there. I would go as far as saying like, hey, shop around for Devonta Smith in your leagues and see if you can go get him at a significant discount, because I bet you $1 million a lot of people in your league are going to be panicking on him. And when you look at Devonta Smith historically, this is what he does every single year. He always, when you look at the whole sample size of the entire season, he always ends up being a mid wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 2 on a points per game basis. He's always in that range. Last season, in a year where he missed 4 games, finished as a wide receiver 27 in total points, missing 4 games on a points per game basis, really solid. And you can see his game log in the times where he was fully healthy: 15, 0, 20, 18, 3, 6, 13, 11, 30, 28. For every 4 or 5 point game that you're going to get from Devonta Smith, you're going to get a couple 25 plus point games as well. And that's just the reality of this situation. I think this is partially why A.J. Brown was being discounted and going a lot lower than where we saw him even go last season, is this is kind of the new Eagles offense. This is how they made a Super Bowl run. So as long as Saquon Barkley is healthy and as long as this is working for them, as long as the Eagles can sustain their run of keeping a lead or having a lead heading into the second half, they will run the ball the entire second half. That's just what they'll do to keep the lead, because they'll run the ball better than anyone else in the NFL. It's how they won a Super Bowl. So if they keep doing that, you will have boom bust weeks with Devonta Smith. But at a cheaper price than where he was going in your drafts to start the season, I would go as far as saying buy Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I lean hold buy as well. Obviously, I have Devonta Smith. I'm not going to sell him is the thing. Like, that's probably the most important thing. I have Devonta Smith.
It's a bad idea to sell Smith right now. If you want to sell him, do it when he puts up a 30 ball.
Look, Smith's going to have 18 to 20 points next week. Yeah, I would bet the farm on it. I really would. He's going to have a bounce back week. He's going to have a touchdown next week, and then we're all going to forget about this. So yeah, I would say hold. And buy is obviously if you can get him at a cheaper price than what somebody drafted, which a lot of people are like, on our buys video, like, yeah, I don't think anybody's selling these guys for cheaper than what you drafted them. Like, I would say you've probably never played in a home league or a casual league, because absolutely people
100%,
1,000% in casual leagues, like where nobody knows what they're talking about, work leagues, right? Absolutely, that will happen. Trust me. Family leagues, we see it all the time. So in sharper leagues, maybe not, but in casual leagues, absolutely. Devon Achane. And the main concern with Devon Achane after week 1, in terms of why we need to talk about whether we're buying, selling, or holding him, because he had 16.5 points on 73% snap share. Of course, he did have a receiving touchdown, and that's what kind of salvaged his day there.
In garbage time, there was like 10 points from one play.
But it was a garbage time play, and before that, he had done nothing, and the offense there looks abysmal. The Dolphins look like one of the worst teams in the NFL, if not the worst team in the NFL. And so you have a running back now that you drafted in the first or second round on your team, and he is on one of the worst teams in the entire NFL. And that's concerning. The thing with Devon Achane is, well, I'm not going to go out of my way to buy Devon Achane because I don't want to go buy somebody that's in as poor an offense as he is. I definitely don't think that you should be selling him. I think that you drafted Devon Achane, and he still, even in bad weeks, is going to give you this explosive 4 target. Even 4 targets is not a lot for Devon Achane, but still salvaged his day with a touchdown at 16.5 points. I don't think it's going to get much worse than that for Devon Achane. In fact, I think that offense is probably only going to continue to get marginally better. I think they had a terrible day against the Indianapolis Colts. And so with Achane, I'm going to say hold. Obviously, if I had to choose between buy or sell, I would say sell. And if you can get out on Devon Achane for Derrick Henry still, by all means, do it. The problem is I don't think that's happening almost anywhere. I don't think you can get out of him for Henry. I don't think you can get out of him for CMC. I don't think you can probably get out of him for Genty, who you may not even want to get out of him for, because Genty in his debut only had 12 points. Nobody wants to talk about 19 attempts, 38 yards for Genty. But when it's Hampton, we all want to talk about it. Isn't that funny? Mm-hmm. Is that not funny?
Yeah.
Just because Genty had a touchdown, again, which is the one thing. If Hampton had a touchdown, nobody would be talking about it. Mm-hmm. But with Achane, I'm going to say, are you selling Achane?
I put them on here because I'm selling them.
Okay.
And the reason is the outlook for the next 3 weeks: New England, Buffalo, and the Jets. That's a really, really tough schedule. That's 3 division opponents, by the way. Mm-hmm. All have a pretty solid front. Here's what I'm counting on. I'm counting on a lot of people in your leagues looking at box score reading with Devon Achane, being like, 16.5 points for Devon Achane in a game where they only scored, like 14 points on the entire day, all of which came at the end of the fourth quarter when the Colts started pulling their starters. Like that's part of it. But I am really, really, really worried about the outlook of this offense. I don't think we can. Personally, I don't want to be betting on Devon Achane when we're not betting on Tyreek Hill and we're not betting on Jalen Waddle, and they literally just got worked by the freaking Colts. Like, if they're going to get worked by the Colts like that, what do you think they're going to do when they go up against a Mike Vrabel defense? A Buffalo Bills defense, a New York Jets defense. And yeah, the Bills and the Jets respectively gave up like 38 points plus a piece in week 1. You're not going to see that every single week with these two defenses that have the personnel to be able to stop a guy like Devon Achane, let alone, again, these are division opponents that know each other very, very well, and they know that Devon Achane, at this point in the offensive outlook for the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are not what they were a couple of years ago together. Achane is really the guy that can keep that offense going schematically, and I think they're going to make it a point to stop him specifically. So I think Devon Achane might lose value over the next few weeks even more than he is right now, because I don't really think he's lost value yet. And I would go see if you can get him later at a discount when his schedule lightens up a little bit.
Who
when
are you
he plays
targeting?
Carolina in week 5.
Who are you targeting in a trade for Devon Achane?
I would take Bucky, Jacobs, and JT over Achane right now.
And I'm assuming Chase Brown.
They're close.
I would probably take Chase Brown. He's in a better offense. So, I mean, I just don't know. I just don't know if you're getting that done.
And Achane was being drafted over all of those guys, right?
But yes, he was. But it is a good point to make. If you are getting one of those 4 guys, I mean, I'm definitely doing that.
Yep.
I'm not sure that you will, but if you do, then obviously, again, if you're playing casually, you might.
Oh, yeah, I'd rather have Kyron.
Yeah,
I'd rather have Kyron too at this point.
Kyron. So,
yep.
And look with Achane, sell, hold. I could again, I'm closer to a sell than I am a buy for sure. And so, it all is dependent on your league. But see,
I think a hold's reasonable. If you want to hold him, that's fine.
I mean, yeah, he's got crazy upside. It's only been 1 week. I don't want to totally. I do think it's definitely worth noting that the offense there is.
Mine's a little bit more of a hot take. I could be wrong about that for sure. So.
All right, talk about your boy.
Yeah. Michael Pittman, also not my boy. He's your boy. Why did I pick all guys that are on your team? But Michael Pittman looked really, really good this week. He had 20 points. He had, I think, like 9 targets. Eight targets.
6 receptions.
And in classic Michael Pittman fashion, he was very efficient with the targets that he got. He doesn't usually get like 15 plus targets, nothing elite level, right? He's basically a diet version of like your Chris Olaves and JSNs, those types of skill sets. He's just a less good version of those guys. But he's someone that you at this point can comfortably start in your flex. And here's the big reason why. I don't even want to go into the snaps because he was the lead wide receiver hands down, and everyone knew that. Everyone knows that Michael Pittman is a wide receiver 1 for the Indianapolis Colts. What I care about is the efficiency in the passing game for the Colts now that they actually have, I cannot believe I'm saying this, a semblance of quarterback play.
Okay.
Competent quarterback play. Daniel Jones, 22 for 29 in the air for 272 yards and a touchdown. He had 2 on the ground as well. You're not going to see that every single week. you are going to see probably that amount of efficiency when it comes to the whatever amount of attempts that he gets on a weekly basis or Steichen allows him to take. Because we watched that game closely because we're Colts fans, but also we had rooting interest because he didn't want Pitty to score, and I really needed Tyler Warren to produce. So we kind of know the ins and outs of the offense, I think, at this point and what it's going to look like ideally this season. And what you saw with Daniel Jones was a lot of first reads and then look for his check down option if the first read wasn't there. There was not a lot of advanced like downfield looks where he was going to his second, progressing to his second and third read. It was literally first read, check down, first read, check down. When he couldn't get his check down, he was literally like tunnel vision, head down, seeing if he could run and then maybe getting sacked. Like Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. You try to manage the game through Daniel Jones not screwing it up for you, and that's by scheming up good looks for him. And Michael Pittman is hands down by far and away the easiest look at the wide receiver position. It's him and it's Tyler Warren, I think, at this point, without a question. So I would go... I'm a hybrid hold buy here for Michael Pittman. I view him very similarly to Jacoby Myers, where like he's not a sexy name. A lot of people don't like those guys, but I don't think people realize how flexible they are week in and week out. So if you have someone trying to offload Pittman at a premium right now after a 20-point game, he's not going to have 20-point games every week, but a floor of anywhere from like 8 to 12, I think you could count on that at this point with the efficiency that they have in the passing game, which they haven't had for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I would say probably hold as well as my verdict there. I do still think Josh Downs could get involved there as he becomes healthier as well, and so we'll see how that impacts Michael Pittman. But again, Michael Pittman could just end up being the guy there, which would, again, it's not, we thought it would be Downs. I thought it would be Downs with Daniel Jones, and it still could be, but I'm not super surprised with Michael Pittman. Let's talk about Breece Hall. Look, if you can buy Breece Hall, do it. If you can buy, I mean, straight up, like eye test, because, again, we're talking about box score readers here. 16.5 points for Breece Hall, and that's modest. But it's like, yeah, Breece Hall did what we thought he would. That's with no touchdowns. Like, he didn't score a touchdown. So, like, you're talking about...
People are freaking about Braylon again. So, like
within the last 24 hours?
Well, because he got the quote-unquote goal line carry. He got the red zone carry.
He didn't even... He was like 9 yards out.
Yeah, I know.
No, again,
I know.
no, we're not... Again, we've said this before the season. I mean, Breece Hall had 19 attempts to Braylon Allen 6. Breece Hall had 4 targets to Braylon Allen 0. Guys, this is not a conversation. It is not a conversation I will have with you on this camera. No. Breece Hall is the lead back there, and he is going to get all of the valuable work, and he's going to score a lot of points. Even on 58% snap share with 0 touchdowns, he scored 16.5 points. And do you want to know why? Number one, Breece Hall looked much, much better than he did last year. But number two, that offense looked better than all of us thought that offense was going to look. I don't think anybody expected the Steelers-Jets game to be in the 30s, but it was, and it was because Justin Fields looked competent in this game. Garrett Wilson was a freaking monster. Breece Hall looked great. Did you watch Breece Hall? If you watched the game and you watched his snaps, you know he looked good, and he averaged 5.6 yards per carry in this game as well. So, again, we're encouraged about this, but the Braylon Allen thing is not a discussion. It's not. And so if you still have people that are like Braylon Allen this, Braylon Allen that, oh my
Breece.
gosh, you're buying
Breece.
Oh my gosh. If I can get him, even at the price he was being drafted, again, we talked about this. He was going behind Kenneth Walker at the end of the draft season. Behind him. He was going the 4th round. Man, if I can get him anywhere close to that price, I'm all in. Breece looks good, and the offense looks good. And again, that's by Jets standards. It's not going to be a top 10 offense. No. But it looks more competent. It's not terrible. It's not a dumpster fire.
What are the weapons available there on a consistent basis? It's Garrett Wilson in the air, and it's Breece Hall on the ground. They're by far and away the best playmakers there, so why would you not lean on that? And they did in week 1, and it almost got them a win over Pittsburgh. So Juh Von Tay Williams is another guy that I think we're now excited about, I guess, because, no, like seriously, we're like, dang, okay, we finally know who's going to be the starter there. Unfortunately, we were hoping, just selfishly, it would be Jaden Blue. He ends up being a healthy scratch there. Miles Sanders, when he was on the field, it was the most disgusting thing of all time. I literally had to close my eyes because I wanted to pass out. It was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Juh Von Tay Williams actually had some juice. And every time they got into the red zone, they were like, Juh Von Tay, get in there, give him the ball. And he had that one where he literally bullied everyone on the Eagles defense to get into the end zone. And obviously, you're going to have to factor in the fact that, okay, this was against a Jalen Carter-less Eagles defense where you probably would not have had a 22-point game in Juh Von Tay Williams if you had Jalen Carter probably not allowing him to get that opportunity consistently all night. But I will say, there is no one there. We now know that it's not Javonte Williams plus Miles Sanders plus Jaden Blue, a three-way split. This is Javonte Williams is probably going to be the bell cow there. Miles Sanders has nothing. He's done. Miles Sanders is so irrelevant, it's not even funny. Jaden Blue is a healthy scratch. You'll probably get to a point where you see those flip, and at that point, Jaden Blue, I think, is going to be the receiving back. That was his skill set coming out of college anyway, and why they drafted him. We were just hoping that could translate and give him opportunities on the ground more consistently. Javonte Williams looks too good. He's picking up right where he left off at the end of last season in Denver, and really a less good situation, and he's still been able to maintain it so far through the first week of the season. So don't freak out. This is why I'm leaning hold with Javonte Williams. It's week 1. I don't want to panic. I moved Javonte Williams up in my rankings to running back 22, back-to-back with Pollard, Krosky, Merritt, and I literally have him over Kenneth Walker because he's not splitting a backfield with Zach Charbonnet. He's the number 1 guy there. Do you think that's insane?
It's a hot take, but volume-wise, I mean, it looks more promising for Javonte volume-wise, and volume is so important as a back. So
they have to run the ball every game. They have to run the ball, and who are they going to give it to?
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll see. He's also not going to have 2 touchdowns every game.
Correct.
It just depends on the price you're getting him at. Look, if he's still as cheap as he was, obviously you're buying him, but I bet he's probably a hold. Last guy, Keenan Allen. I'm a little bit torn on this one. I mean, part of me is like, oh, Keenan Allen, as soon as he's out of the Bears offense, looks like Keenan Allen again. Mm-hmm. So there's part of me that thinks that. However, when you're looking at the utilization, obviously there is no question that the wide receiver 1 there is Lab McConkey. When you're looking at Quentin Johnson, even, he got more snaps than Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was not on the field for 3 wide receiver sets. He only had 40 snaps in this game compared to Lad's 55 and Quentin Johnson's 53. And so it was really the fact that he had a receiving touchdown, although he did have 10 targets. He was the leading target getter in this game, and he does have, obviously, chemistry with Justin Herbert. My thing is, I don't think they're going to throw the ball this much every game. And so I'm a little bit skeptical about Keenan Allen producing at this level long-term. But the problem is, I don't think that people are buying at the price that he performed at the other night. And so at that point, I think he's probably just a hold. He could end up being somebody that you can flex throughout the season. I don't think he's worth selling high on because I don't think you're going to get anything for him. Obviously, if you're selling him at wide receiver 2 prices, absolutely, you're selling him.
Right.
But outside of that, I'm not going out of my way to buy Keenan Allen because I'm a little bit worried about the passing volume there long term and how sustainable that is. And I would say probably hold. So again, we got to make sure that we're doing the right thing with these players. Even being early on these players, I know it's only week 1, we don't want to overreact, could potentially win us a fantasy football league. So we're trying to sort all this out and use the data to figure out what the most likely outcomes are for these players all season. Do us a huge favor. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like. It's easy. It helps us out a ton. And also, if you're new, make sure you're subscribed. We're going to have fantasy content for you all week this week and then throughout the entire season to help you win your fantasy football leagues. But we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later.